All right, we're going to talk about the 8 controllables of elite dealership operators. Now, over a 29-year career, I was fortunate enough to have some amazing dealer principals to work for. And these folks taught me some pretty impressive things. And I must say that if you can learn the most important things and leave the rest, and then focus on those things with, I termed controllables, because control is to exert your power, your intensity, your energy towards the outcome or result of something. And so if it was put into these 8 areas, they proved to me that you were going to be successful. So it was neat over that career to have learned from these people, and then to be able to implement and execute and see how it actually comes out and plays out. So the first one is the financial statement. I mean, they were assassins when it came to the financial statement. So when I think of the financial statement, I'll never forget Carl Vinson. He literally would have, I was his general manager, and he would ask for every schedule and every check that had been written out of the dealership at the end of the month. And then I'd have to get it all stacked or printed out, and it'd be a stack this high. And we'd go into his office, and he would go through every single one of those pages, every check, everything that had been written. He would go through and one by one, and it could take us all day. It could take us 2 days. And he'd ask questions that he had questions on. We'd get him answers. No computer. We'd go get the answers through the computers or whatever. But he would just ask questions. His number 2 pencil and this stack of paper. Very effective, simple, basic way. Any expense that had gone out of the dealership, he was going to check on. Now, if we'd reported any kind of income or any money coming in, whether it was gross on a trip pad or from a manufacturer or any other way, he wanted to know where that money was coming from. So he was very good at showing me how an accountant holds accounting. And I remember at one time asking him, like, hey, where did you get this from? And he said, well, you remember? And he looked at my controller, and she was a little bit older, and said, was talking about these books that they used to use to keep the ledgers and everything in. And his mom was an accountant, and she had taught him how to, keep these books. And so it was very precise. Now, I think that's interesting that his mom passed that information down to him, and then he passed that information down to me. So being, very astute and aware of, that was just one person. I met every single successful elite dealer principal I worked for was a financial statement wizard. Like they were assassins, man. They'd murder you with that thing. So when I say that, you got to take into context, I'm just pulling one story out from one person, but there's so many of them that just taught me. Now, I'm counting not even on a full hand the number of people that taught this to me, because there was plenty of people that I had as bosses or whatnot that didn't know this information and were no good at it. So it was very evident that those were successful, that these were the 8 things that they were really good at. So I think that's critical and important. So anyway. In the 8 controllables of elite dealership operators, number 2 is fixed operations. Now, fixed operations typically is a place where general managers really don't know much about. They run from. Owners even don't know much about. They run from. They've got that sales side figured out, but they don't have that service side down. And so when you start talking about effective labor rate and hours per RO and efficiency and bay efficiency and tech efficiency and getting tech certified and what does it take and how do you do it, and what's your warranty rate and what's your labor rate and what's your door rate and what's your internal rate and what's your detail rate, what's your maintenance rate, all these things, and how do you get that programmed to the computer, what's your markup back in the parts and for all these different wholesale, retail, internal, employee, the list goes on and on and on. And you're talking about thousands and thousands of different parts and so on and so forth. So it does get pretty detailed and into the intricacies. However, so it's very detailed. There's no doubt. However, you have to understand that fixed operations is no different than variable operations. You are selling a service and a part for a certain dollar amount. So you will sell it, then you have to produce it. So what I mean by that is you're going to go to get a technician that can actually do the work. So there goes a whole nother thing. When you start talking about warranty, it's very important to understand these different things. But certain technicians, depending on their level of certification through the manufacturer, can only work on certain things. And so making sure that the right tech's working on the right car, so you can flag the right hours, and you can get your warranty rate paid, or your warranty hours paid. Making sure that they actually can do the work, because just because somebody's certified doesn't mean they can actually do what they're certified. So these are all critical, important things to learn and understand. But if you want to learn it, it's not hard, because it is just the same as the sales side. And just the opposite. If I was coming from the service side and that's all I knew was fixed, the sales side is no different. It's just a different vernacular. We're just using different words. So it's really important that if you come from the sales side, that somebody from the sales side who's really good at fixed operations teaches you fixed ops. Because unfortunately, somebody from fixed ops teaching you fixed ops doesn't have the perspective to be able to help make you understand what they're talking about. So it's critical that it's somebody from the variable side. And like I said, I was fortunate to have some really good dealer principals that knew fixed ops, like the back of their hand. Used car, number 3, right? Now, the third controllable, 3 of 8 that elite dealer operators I watched just own. And this is in the used vehicles. These are used vehicle variable operations, right? These operators were special operators, right? These are Navy SEALs. And the used car business has changed a ton in the last 10, 12 years. And it literally just went through another change again. And those who were the best, I had it described to me one time. They said, if cash is the blood of your business, then used cars is the bowels of your business. So when your bowels are messed up, we all, just end the conversation there. We know what happens. So unfortunately, used cars was critical to the success of any dealership. And it used to be, you trade for a car, buy a car, recon the car, put it on the lot, you'll sell it at some point. It'll happen. Some were better than worse, not, but you were going to do it. Well, the internet changed that. The internet brought a very level competitive playing field. And then even the internet pushed it too far. And, velocity from Viato, really just was a race to the bottom. And what was missed was that we were making investments, and how best to allocate this money into things that made sense for the dealership specifically. Like you could literally have the location, the brand that you're selling, the people that are your salespeople. All these things make a difference in the car that you're selling, believe it or not. It's not just having the car. Having a Ram truck on an Acura lot does not help you. Having an Acura on a Ram lot does not help you. Even if it was the right vehicle at the right price, you need all those other things to play into, to fall into line for the car to be the right car for you. And so if you don't do those things, if you don't understand those things, first of all, you need to. Second, if you aren't able to do those things, then understand that the investment's a bad one. And what do we do with a bad investment? If you are one of those people who likes making a bad investment and holds on to it, by all means. But for the rest of the sane world, we made a bad investment and we got off it as quick as possible. If that meant losing $2, we lost $2. If that meant losing $2,000, we lost $2,000. If that meant making $2, we made $2. And we would do it immediately, as quick as possible. And that was something that I thought was critical. I'll never forget being told, your first loss is your best loss. And so taking that loss and moving on. Well, then there's a flip side to that. Because what happens is somebody will come in and want to pay us a $2,000, $3,000 profit on a car, and the car's been there for 10 days, and we go, oh, wow, we're making, more money. Hey, look at us. Here we go. And not realizing that it didn't matter if that car sat there for 60 or 90 days, that it should have brought $5,000 to $6,000, or don't sell it. And that's a really difficult mentality for managers and GSMs, GMs to actually have, even dealers. They have a really hard time with that. Have a hard time understanding that you need a 30-day running total average on your lot. You don't need this 60, 90, 120-day used car average, because all that does is, in this very efficient market, lead to insane losses on your vehicles. And this was something, again, that I was so impressed with, and just I saw the used car business. It was actually described to me by a dealer when I asked him in the early 2000s if he put his money in the stock market, and he pointed out to the used car lot, and he said, yeah, I have it in Ford, I have it in Chevy, I have it in Dodge. Oh, I get it. You're buying your used cars. I own every one of those used cars. That's my stock market. And it really is. That's what they are. We're in the investment business, and we're making good and bad investments, just like the boys on Wall Street do. And if we make a bad one, we get out of it quick. If we make a good one, we make sure we get our correct return on it. And that was very big deal to the best. I knew that, and learning that from them was huge. The fourth thing is the golden rule. And when we start talking about, the 8 controllables, we hear customer service, guest retention, customer relations, all these things are important, our CSI score. But these were all just words. And a lot of people, that's all they ever are. And they say these things, but they really weren't important. However, to the elite, to the best that I worked for, they weren't words. There was 3 specific gentlemen that I can remember that had taught me very well how important the taking care of our guests was. And it specifically taught me that, what I want you to understand, Jonathan, is instead of getting upset that they're upset, for a second put yourself in their situation, and how would you feel? And how would you want it done unto you? And, well, of course, just by that statement, you can tell why, the golden rule came from. So do unto others as you want done unto you. And he had asked the question, what if, give me your keys, and let me hold on to your keys, and I'll let you drive your car for 2 weeks, and let's see how your life is. And just things like that were really resonated in my brain. I went, wow, okay, yeah, no, who cares if you can't get a part? Who cares if you're not able to work on the vehicle? Just for a second, understand what the customer is going through. On the sales side, if somebody had bought a vehicle that wasn't a nice vehicle, I mean, imagine for a second that you invested a lot of money into a vehicle, and a couple of days later, it wasn't a nice car. You figured something out. It would be devastating. And once I was able to put myself in their shoes and go, okay, how would I want to be treated in this situation? My ability to take care of customers completely changed. And there's no doubt we can talk about further tactics and skills that I learned over the years, but those tactics and strategies to take care of the customer, I was only open to learn them because I was on a quest to then take care of the customer, because I saw it as taking care of myself. So I think that's really important that we understand that, when we're talking about customer relations, it is the rule, the golden rule: do unto others as you want done unto yourself. The 5th rule, or 5th controllable in the 8 of elite dealer operators, was marketing and advertising. I think anybody who's in the auto industry will agree with me that some of the biggest characters out there are people, are dealers, dealer principals in the business. And their ability to market themselves and to brand themselves. Specifically, I can think of Doug Moreland in Colorado, Dylan Doug. He's the 2nd best known name in the entire state, right behind John Elway, who's won his 2 Super Bowls. Won his 3 really, because as a GM or vice president, he did it as well. So unbelievable what he did. And then you've got another guy that's an entrepreneur, and he's the 2nd best known, and it's just because of his unbelievable marketing skills. And these guys were doing things before anybody else was. They were going to the cable station saying, "Hey, you got dead time, run my ad." Right? Just run my ad. Or they were, the cable was coming to them saying, pitching something that today would be insane to get that kind of opportunity. But they took it. And that back then, everybody was saying no, but they said yes. And so, it's interesting to see as we have social media that has really turned into the TV of today, and these different channels, and the people that are taking huge advantage of their ability to market and advertise their brand. They were the same ones who, Cal Worthington from California, he built an empire off of, go see Cal, I'll stand on my head, buy a car, go see Cal, walking around with an elephant, with a lion, just the craziest things in the world, but he got your attention and built an empire based off of that. They're marketing and advertising geniuses. I was just always so impressed with their ability to get the attention of the public. Good or bad, didn't matter. They didn't care. They wanted attention, and people would come for it. I worked for Marshall Chesrow and Posse. You couldn't go anywhere without knowing about the Chesrow and Posse. And it was a hook, and it got people, and people were excited to be a part of the posse, right? And they don't have a problem putting their name on it because they stood behind their name. They believed in their name. They believed in their brand. So this is kind of an interesting one, but what I noticed, again, in these controllables, that all of these gentlemen had the ability to, what I will say is, control the fast and the furious. So typically in this business, if you've been successful or have success or are going to be successful, you're a certain type of personality. probably more adept to addiction, was what I would say. Maybe a little ADD, maybe a little eccentric, and you go a little bit over the top. And that's typically, the right personality for the business that we're in. And entrepreneurs are a lot that way. But it also has, your greatest skill can be your greatest weakness. And this, the Fast and the Furious, as you can tell, man, it's a Ferrari with tricycle brakes and trying to keep it on the road. And some of us didn't always do a good job at keeping it on the road. And there was, two things I learned. Either A, they weren't as well at keeping it on the road and it went off the road, but they got it back. And when they got it back on the road, they got it back better than ever. Or B, the second thing is they always, even if they bumped up to the, the bumpers of the curbs, right? But they were always managed to get it back on the road. And so being able to maintain the physical strain of working, 6 days a week, 12, 15-hour days, nights, weekends, holidays, just like Mr. Walton said, if you don't like nights, weekends, and holidays, get out of retail. They were able to do that physically, but then mentally, they were able to deal with the mental strain and the pressure with the constant grind to beat last year, beat last month, beat yesterday. I mean, it was just always a push, always a drive for more and more and more and more and more. And their ability to actually control those things and still keep the car that was a very, very high-performing machine on the road was very impressive. I was always, looked at that and said, geez, that's amazing. And number eight, the last but not least thing that I noticed with these gentlemen was the fact that they, number 7. Can't forget Process Eddie. Number 7, the 7th controllable of the elite auto operators is Process Eddie, what I call it. And Eddie, because that's just what it's spelled, and it helped me remember it. But what they would do is we a lot of times we talk about process and we think about words. Process is not words. Process is the ability to design a system that gets a job done, a vehicle sold, a service completed. It exchanges value for money. That's what a process is designed to do. And the elite operators had this ability to evaluate both what was happening either in a process or no process happening. They could develop what was supposed to happen, design it, implement it, and then execute. Okay, they always had a way to execute, meaning it got done. They were able to follow up with it and get it done. So their ability, whether it was unbelievable process training for the sales guys, making sure that they knew the sales process better than anybody else. Because a lot of times in process training, what we do is we evaluate and we realize, there's somebody out there better than us that can do this. And we go get that person who can do this. I used Cardone for years, used Elliott over the last couple of years, just unbelievable, great trainers. But we go outside and go, hey, it's better off. You can do this. You can take care of this part. You are this part of the process. That's part of evaluating. Designing and developing, that process. But otherwise, you would evaluate it. They would develop the process, sit down, design it specifically, right? Then we would implement it. Here, this is what we're going to do. And then there was always a way to check and follow up to make sure that these things were being done. Because process, guys, is culture. That's the truth. Process is culture. Everybody talks about culture. Culture is your process. Culture is what your people are forced to do every single time a customer comes in. Culture is what people are expected to do when they show up to work. Well, how would they ever know? Those are processes. You develop clear, defined processes. And the elite did that better than anybody else. They didn't have 1,000 process. And they weren't always starting and stopping. They weren't starting one, forgetting about it, right? And starting another. No. When they developed a process, like I said, they went through the Eddie. They evaluated, right? They develop, they design, they implement, they execute. Done. Move on. And then it's just, executing from then on out, right? That's it. Making sure that it got done. And so that execution is key. But their ability to develop that process or Eddie the process was huge. Number 8 of the controllables of the elite operators that I had the fortune of meeting throughout my career was their network. And what I mean by their network is the people that they knew, the people that they rubbed with, of course, but more importantly, like, how were they seen? You know, were they the Nick Saban or, you know, the Jake Saban, right? Who knows Jake Saban? Nobody cares. Everybody knows Nick Saban. Yeah. Were they a Coach Prime or, you know, Coach Dime? I don't know. You know, nobody, right? So the best part is you could attract people to the dealership based off of that person. People wanted to work for that person. That person had a great reputation. So their network created opportunities for you. When you had job opportunities, people came flocking because of their network. Their ability to recruit based off of their name and their brand is huge. Your ability to basically just open up the doors and say, hey, I need people, and them to come. Even if you had to train them, even if you didn't have enough and you were constantly hiring, it didn't matter. With their network, what they've created, the reputation, right, from their dealership, made it possible for you to very easily attain and acquire quality, good people. So I really do believe, you know, I'll break each one of these down and go really into depth and specific with you. But it's important to understand that there's, you know, these 8 controllables, and that every time I looked at a store and we would go in and we'd take, you know, we'd flip it. We'd take it from nothing, turn it into something, and then, you know, either sell it or move on to the next, whatever it was. But, you know, it would take a couple of years to do this over, you know, many times. But so what? That was the process, was to go in and turn it around. I went, man, there's something similar here. And these were those similar things that every single time we went into a place, that was what was getting done. You know, so the 8 controllables of elite operators, all right? Financial statement assassins, fixed operations, they are operators, used vehicle variable operators, they've got it down. The golden rule, they take better care of customers, employees than anybody else, okay? Marketing, advertising, number 5. Fast and the Furious to keep the head, the body, they kept it all right. The money, they kept all these things dialed in to keep the car, the racetrack on the road. Process eddies, they had their processes. They could evaluate, they could design, develop, implement, and execute. No problem. And their networks were just unbelievable. They were the best people to work for because you could draw anybody. 8 controllables of elite dealership operators over a 29-year career, going from a salesperson to a managing partner and having the opportunity to learn at the feet of these gentlemen. I'm the one-eye guy, Jonathan Lampros. I'm out.